The coffee cup shattered against the floor, hot liquid splashing across worn shoes as the entire diner fell into a sudden, suffocating silence. The man at table 7 stood up, his chair scraping harshly, his voice cutting through the air like a blade as he berated the trembling waitress. And just when it seemed no one would step in, a single dad in the corner slowly rose from his seat, his jaw clenched, his tired eyes burning with something far stronger than anger. If you believe in kindness and second chances, take a moment right now to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Echoes the Stories. Your support helps stories like this reach more hearts. The diner sat at the edge of a busy daytime street, sunlight pouring through large windows that illuminated every crack in the tiled floor and every scratch on the wooden tables. It wasn't a glamorous place, but it was honest, much like the people who came and went through its doors. Among them was Kareem Hossein, a man who looked older than his years, not because of age but because of the weight he carried every day. Kareem sat quietly with his 6-year-old daughter, Meher, who was coloring on a napkin with a borrowed crayon. His shirt was neatly pressed but clearly worn, and his hands bore the roughness of someone who worked long hours doing whatever jobs he could find. Life had not been generous to him. Ever since losing his wife 3 years ago, he had been everything for Meher: father, mother, protector, provider. Every decision he made revolved around keeping her safe and giving her something close to a normal life. The waitress who approached their table that day seemed almost invisible to the rest of the customers. Her name tag read Sana, and she moved with quiet efficiency, her posture humble, her smile soft but guarded. There was something different about her, though, something in the way her eyes scanned the room, observant and thoughtful, as if she noticed everything yet chose to say nothing. She treated Kareem and Meher with a gentle kindness that felt genuine, not forced. But then came the man at table 7. He had the kind of presence that filled the room with discomfort. Loud, impatient, entitled. His complaints started small but escalated quickly, each word dripping with disdain. When Sana accidentally delayed his order due to a kitchen mix-up, his frustration exploded. The cup slammed down, the coffee spilled, and his voice rose to a level that made even the most hardened regulars look away in discomfort. Sana stood frozen, her hands trembling slightly as she tried to apologize, her voice barely audible under his shouting. She didn't argue. She didn't defend herself. She simply absorbed the humiliation like it was something she had grown used to. That was when Kareem stood up. He didn't shout. He didn't make a scene. But there was something unshakable in the way he stepped forward, placing himself between the man and Sana. His voice, when he spoke, was calm but firm, carrying a quiet authority that demanded attention. He told the man to sit down, to show some respect, to remember that mistakes happen and that no one deserved to be treated that way. The diner fell silent again, but this time the tension shifted. The man at table 7 scoffed at first, clearly not used to being challenged. But something about Kareem, maybe the steadiness in his eyes or the lack of fear in his stance, made him hesitate. After a few more muttered insults, he threw some cash onto the table and stormed out, leaving behind a ripple of relief that spread through the room. Sana stood there, stunned, her eyes wide as she looked at Kareem. For a moment, it seemed like she might say something, but instead she simply nodded, her lips forming a quiet thank you. It was the kind of gratitude that didn't need words. Kareem returned to his seat, brushing it off like it was nothing. But Meher looked at him differently now, her small eyes filled with admiration. To her, he wasn't just her father. He was a hero. What Kareem didn't know was that this moment, this simple act of standing up for someone, was about to change his life in ways he could never imagine. Because Sana was not just a waitress. Not even close. Behind the humble uniform and quiet demeanor was Sana Qureshi, the CEO of a rapidly growing hospitality company. She had spent months visiting her own establishments in disguise, wanting to understand what her employees truly experienced when no one was watching. She had seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. But what she witnessed that day was something rare, genuine kindness without expectation. Over the next few days, Kareem returned to the diner as he always did, unaware that someone was paying close attention to him now. Sanaa observed him carefully, noticing how he treated Meher with patience and love, how he always thanked the staff, how he never complained even when his order wasn't perfect. There was a quiet dignity about him, a resilience that couldn't be faked. She also noticed the struggles he tried to hide. The way he counted his money before ordering. The hesitation in his voice when Meher asked for something extra. The exhaustion that lingered in his eyes. One afternoon, as the diner was less crowded, Sanaa finally sat down across from him. At first, Kareem seemed confused. He wasn't used to conversations that went beyond polite exchanges. But Sanaa asked him about his life, his work, his daughter. And slowly, carefully, he opened up. He spoke about losing his wife, about the jobs that came and went, about the constant worry of not being able to provide enough for Meher. There was no self-pity in his words. Just honesty. And that honesty struck something deep within Sanaa. A week later, Kareem received a phone call that would leave him speechless. He was offered a position, stable, well-paying, with benefits he had never even dreamed of. It was an administrative role in a corporate office, something completely outside his usual line of work. At first, he thought it was a mistake. But it wasn't. When he arrived at the office building for his first day, dressed in his best shirt and holding Meher's hand, he felt out of place. The polished floors, the glass walls, the quiet hum of professionalism, it all felt like another world. And then he saw her. Sanaa stood at the entrance, no longer in a waitress uniform but in a tailored suit that reflected authority and confidence. The transformation was undeniable, yet her eyes were the same, warm, observant, and kind. Kareem froze, trying to process what he was seeing. Sanaa walked toward him with a small smile, explaining everything. The diner. The disguise. The reason she had been there. And most importantly, why she chose him. She told him that businesses could be taught, skills could be learned, but character, true character, was something rare. And he had shown it without hesitation, without knowing who she was or what she could offer. Kareem struggled to find words. He wasn't used to being seen this way, let alone valued. From that day on, his life began to change. Not overnight, not magically, but steadily. He worked hard, learning everything he could, proving that Sanaa's faith in him was not misplaced. Meher started going to a better school. Their home became a place of comfort instead of constant worry. But more than anything, Kareem carried something new within him, a sense of dignity that came from being given a chance. And Sanaa, despite her success, found something equally valuable, a reminder that the world still held people who chose kindness even when life had been unkind to them. As time passed, their paths continued to intertwine, not as employer and employee, but as two people who had unknowingly changed each other's lives. And it all started with a single moment in a small diner, when one man decided that silence was not an option. If this story touched your heart even a little, take a moment to like, share, and comment. Your engagement helps keep stories like this alive and spreading positivity. Before we end, tell us in the comments, have you ever witnessed or experienced a moment of unexpected kindness that changed everything? Because sometimes, the smallest acts carry the greatest impact. And sometimes, the people we least expect to change our lives are the ones quietly waiting for someone to stand up, just once.